You always got to sing, right? Well, yeah.
Yes, something.
All right, we are in the house. This is unbelievable. Thank you. That all our technology is just being so friendly with us this morning. So everyone that's part of our virtual women's retreat this morning, here is our second guest speaker that I wanted to introduce you to again so that you weren't listening to me talk for 3 hours. But I am so excited to introduce you to Lindsay. However, I call her LA Dawson because that's how I met her. That's how I heard who she was. And she's another person who recently, again, through the power of social media, has come into my life. Like I said before with our first guest speaker, that there's people that have recently come into my path for a purpose, because we are here on purpose for a purpose. And it's just such an honor that like the relationship that Dee and I have, when we met each other, we just kind of knew that we were going to be connected in some certain way. So Lindsay or LA Dawson, I'm excited for you to meet some of these.
Please call me that, because
LA Dawson. Okay.
that's good. I like it. I love it.
Such amazing people that are here that are so true to my heart. And I'm just like, I'm so filled with gratitude right now for people taking this time to be here for themselves and to just inhale and breathe a little bit. So LA Dawson, again, was another person that I met at a conference and a challenge that we were part of for 23 days recently. And I saw her presenting. She is an author, writes novels. And the most incredible story is how through crisis, and when you're in crisis, how you can overcome crisis, or at least learn to deal in crisis, using hope and positivity. And since this women's retreat today is really centered around the beauty inspired from within, there's nothing more than hope that we all can generate from our inside to help heal us, to help ignite the world around us. And this beautiful person who's just got the most incredible story and background and you know, DNA, is just a beautiful person that I'm just so excited to introduce you all to. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about, who you are and all your fabulousness. LA Dawson, meet some amazing women this morning.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you ladies. This is what I've wanted to do for years and years and years, but I didn't know I wanted to do it until this horrible thing happened to me. So I was sitting at my kitchen table where I am right now, and I was writing novels, I was writing magazine articles, and I thought that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And one day I sat down to write a new novel, and I couldn't get the words from my brain to the computer. And I thought, well, this is odd, because this is my favorite thing. I get to create that person, how they smell, what they like to eat, what their hair looks like, how obnoxious they are, how beautiful their heart is. Whatever it was my favorite part. And I couldn't get the message from the brain down to my hands onto the computer. When it happened 3 times, I went to a doctor, and the doctor said to me, honey, you're a woman of a certain age. It must be depression or menopause. And you know what? I was too sick and didn't know it. And I wasn't my own advocate, and I'm always my own advocate. 2 years later, I woke up. My daughter was home from law school. I said, my face hurts. It doesn't feel right. What's going on? She said to me, Mom, it's okay. Come on, let's continue shopping. And so we did. And the next morning I woke up and I looked at my face in the mirror. One eye was wide open. The other one was irritated, and it felt like there was sand in it. And I said, oh my God. And when I said, oh my God, it looked as if I had a stroke. So I had neurological Lyme. 3 days later, I was diagnosed. I was on medication though that day because I had a strong group of people behind me. And I had a 7th nerve paralysis, which is right here. And it paralyzes about where you see my fingers. That's where I was paralyzed. At first, it looked like it was just the left side, but now we know it was down through here. So I couldn't swallow, I couldn't eat. My eyes had to be taped shut because they were infected, badly infected. I visit the eye doctor still 4 to 6 times a year because of all the eye problems. Didn't affect my vision, thank you God. But 4 months later, and Lyme disease affects your whole body, but we were just concerned with what was happening from here up at this point. I got a call from my editor. I think you have a book deal. Come on, let's look it over. I ran to her house. I ran home to take my 4 dogs out. It was February 20th, 2012. It was leap year. And I walked into my bedroom. I caught my foot under my treadmill, which was not on because I was just coming into my house. There was a sudden snow squall. The room went black. I lost my footing and my sensation of up and down. I caught my foot. I got thrown back somehow, and I thought I was getting up, and I kept trying to get up. And each time I got up, I shattered parts of my face in the instrument of the treadmill. And it happened 3 times. And the second or third time, I don't remember because, you know, now I'm in shock. I heard a voice say, "You're not going to make it today. This is the end of your life." And I held my face on because understand it was hanging off me at this point. And I said, "Jesus, God, angels, save me now." And something picked me up. I guess it was the second time because the third time I was laid down gently on the treadmill. And blood was deep, ears, nose, I don't know where else, eyes, maybe mouth, I don't know. It was bad. And I looked down into my blood. It was about this deep, and there were 3 feathers covered in my blood. True story. I held my face on again. I grabbed the feathers. I put them in the sink, and I was meeting a friend for dinner. And I called her and said, "I think we have to go to the hospital." And at that time, my friend, who's a plastic surgeon who helped me write one of my novels, I had my phone in my pocket, and he picked up the phone, and I called him. And I always sound like I'm okay because I'm strong, and I want to always appear that way and be that way. And he said to me, "Hold on, what happened to you?" And he said, "I've got to call 911. I said, "Don't worry, my friend's coming." They didn't even keep me overnight. The next day I went with an MRI to this doctor, and he said, "You know, it's bad, but it's not as bad as I thought. But I just want you to know that you escaped a bullet. You're lucky to be alive." So that's the background of how I do what I do and why I do what I do.
It's just so unbelievable. And this was 8 years ago, you said?
8 years ago, and still in physical therapy. But that's part of why I got involved being a health coach, is what all these things brought me to.
So tell us about that. Let's hear some more about how that, because that's, you know, we learned recently from a presentation with Amy Purdy that sometimes these obstacles turn you onto a path of a new destiny. And we're all in an obstacle right now, right? Where we're at with COVID and or whatever. And obstacles happen all the time. Somebody in this group had a fire in their whole house burnt down. Another person, like everybody's had some sort of crisis or tragedy or obstacle or something that happened to them. But yet there's so many of us that rise up, that rise above it, that find other purpose. So I'd love to find out how you got drawn then into using your crisis to now help others through theirs.
Well, about a year and a half ago, I was sitting writing another novel. And I should let you know that in the midst of all this, I was sending out my novels for representation. One actually went to LA to be looked at about being made into a movie. I didn't have much hope. These were big people for my early writing. And none of the deals came to fruition, but there was a reason, because right after that is when I got hurt and I got the Lyme disease. I would never have been able to finish those things that I had started, those novels. It was too much work. And I sat down about a year and a half ago and I said, I can do this. I know I can do it. And after 2 hours of arranging the chairs, putting on my neck brace, putting on my hand brace, putting on lidocaine, putting on patches, I said, I can't do this. I just am not supposed to do this now. And I came to that realization, and I took about 2 days and I sobbed for 2 days, and it will still get to me. But then I said, okay, so what's the next chapter? And, you know, I asked that question, and all of a sudden through my Facebook feed, health coach, life coach, all these classes came through. And I thought, you know, I've sort of been doing that my whole life. You know, I talk about what I do to stay healthy. And people have listened because I'm having success with what I was doing. So I went to school. I became a health and life coach. And then as I'm starting my business, I get a setback with my injuries and have to go back to PT. And this was critical. This time I went back to PT. I had full body whiplash from the treadmill thing. So when your neck is injured that badly, excuse me, you can get vertigo symptoms. And I never had them for 8 years. And all of a sudden, or 7 years, they hit me so hard and fast. I couldn't do anything. The only thing I could do was drive to physical therapy without being dizzy. It was really funny. You know, that's where I needed to be. But I learned about brain remapping. So in other words, putting the muscle of your brain into the activities that you're doing. So I had a lot of left side body damage. The messages were not getting there. And my physical therapist would say, okay, do this muscle, move your arms this way. And I'd go, I don't understand. And it became very clear that the messages were not getting there. And she said, okay, this is why this is so difficult. We are remapping your messages to the brain to tell the right muscles to fire, because I'm the queen of compensation, having been an athlete my whole life. Your powerhouse is your core. My traps became my powerhouse, and I did all this. This is how I did everything. I didn't even know I was doing that. And so my neck injury was exacerbated and kept getting worse and worse and worse. After, let's say, 7.5 years, I was able to do the exercises to strengthen these muscles, and I'm on the road to recovery. But what I found out from that brain mapping, which is so critical to everything we do in life, is I used to speak German and I used to speak baby Arabic. And to me, it was no big deal. But I lost, from all the paralysis around here, my ability to pronounce those words, those difficult words, easily. My pronunciation is still a problem. Sometimes I slur my words, but I remember the German again, and I remember the Arabic again, not completely and not fully, but I see it's moving in that direction. I used to have a photographic memory, and that disappeared. I was actually bitten by a tick 30 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter. Was this paralysis from that same tick? Was I bitten again? All answers we will never know, but I do know when I was bitten by the tick the first time is when I started to lose my photographic memory. And here we are 30 plus years later, and it's coming back from learning how to brain map in physical therapy. And that to me is just, that was worth the journey, the whole 8 years.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, because how to overcome that? I mean, what was it that just kept you moving forward? And obviously now you get involved in learning and life coaching. And what that then does is it now gives you a new purpose. So obviously perhaps finding that new passion was the fuel you needed to keep going and healing.
So I want to talk to you about, this brings up the isolation. The kind of health coaching I do is I work with people under stress and crisis towards hope and positivity. And there's a reason why I do that, because I was alone and isolated. And when you have a chronic illness, when you go through something sad, when your house burns down, that also happened in my family. And we lost all childhood pictures and things like that. And no one was hurt, thank you, God. But when you have these crises and they kind of stack on each other, because like to me, I'm still taking care of my body. So that's one crisis in the middle of the corona crisis. However you perceive that, and however your sympathetic nervous system reacts to this stress is stress. And trust me, it's wreaking havoc on your body, and we need to do something about it. My cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, were high for 26 years, from around the time my parents' house burned down to about 2 years ago. That's crazy. And I did everything to bring them down. And then I finally just, I said, I have to figure this out for me, because I do not want any other person sitting in their home, isolated from an illness, from a chronic situation, from depression, from even a breakup. Whatever it is, it may seem simple to you or it may seem big to you. Whatever that stress is, that's working on your sympathetic nervous system and making you go into fight or flight, which wreaks havoc from head to toe.
So what is it that we can do? What is it that we can do to, when we're feeling that anxiety, or what is it that you do? Perhaps maybe what's a practice that you do to help relieve that stress? Is it something we all have to internally find on our own that works for us? Or is there other things that work for you that perhaps we could help, that we could utilize as well? to help us in
There's
situations?
there's so many things, and the first thing is, and I know it's hard to get started with, but is meditation. Quiet your body and be with yourself, and have no thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm sick, I'm not well, my situation is not going to change, what am I going to do? And it takes practice. Look, everything I'm telling you is holistic. After, if you needed medical intervention, this is, you know, maybe during, if you get your doctor's okay, or after medical intervention. But I believe that this meditation that I started to do way back when helped me. But I did a combination of, I would use lavender oil on my stomach, and then I would do, we talked about this in the pre-interview, and then I would put rose quartz, which is a stone that vibrates, not woo-hoo, scientifically proven, at the same vibration of someone in love or someone who feels love. And then I would put a moist heating pad on top of that. And that I found the heat gave me a feeling of safety. The safety gave me a feeling of I can let go of negative thoughts. And little by little, day by day, I would release some of that. And that would make me open to, okay, what else can I do? The other thing I do is exercise. Whatever that means, take my dogs for a walk, do some jumping jacks, anything to release the endorphins, and to give back to somebody else, find someone in need, because I don't look at it, there's always someone worse than you. I don't look at things like that at all. I just feel like it's our duty as humans to help other people, just because we should be good people, and that's the way we should behave. And that's not anything, you know, deeply scientific or something you have to think about. It just is. And if you do that, you will absolutely feel better. I had a chiropractor said to me, I said, you know, to the doctor, I'm losing it. I can't do this anymore. It was like 6 years in. And he said, I need you to get out of yourself. I felt sort of chastised, and he did the right thing. And so that's, I guess, around the time when I started looking to go back to school at 63. I'm telling you, it's not easy.
No, right. And I mean, you're looking at you where you're vibrant. You're just vibrant. You're a light. You know, there's such a reason why you're doing what you're doing right now, which is just so amazing. So I'm so grateful too that we were a part of a program that's really helping us to get those messages out to everyone, which is just really, really spectacular. Another thing too that that we were talking about. First off, before I go there, does anybody have any questions? I know one person, Amanda, saying she can't see you in the camera, but everybody else so far says that they can see you. So
move a little bit. Can you see me now, Amanda?
So yeah, but everybody else, Michelle, you can see her.
I just see Janet speaking every time you speak. Janet, I see you, but it's a black screen when Lindsay's speaking.
Huh.
It's weird. I don't know. She was there. Now she's gone.
Oh, she was it. Well, we are live streaming on Facebook too. So if by chance, if you want to look on Janet Mckay on Facebook, if you want to see her, but is everybody else? Can everybody else see her?
Yeah.
Okay.
I might log out and come back on.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Maybe, you know what? There's so many people doing this that we're having problems with this recently.
Yeah, I know. I was just so grateful that this actually got blessed. I see Barbara here and stuff like that. So, you know, another thing that we talked about too was that, you know, well, actually, you know, here you have doctors that are sitting there saying to you, well, it's in your mind. Oh, you're menopausal. Oh, you're this. And I just hope that all of us women realize that we know our bodies so much more so than perhaps a doctor. I'm not admitting doctor, you know, going to a doctor for sure, but you know, to really be your advocate, right? To be your advocate, to make sure that it's, you know, what's not right, and how.
The thing is that I was already, we don't know how long that line was active in my body. I'm going to guess my mother did die 2 years before that. And that was my last, you know, my family passed away, my siblings, most of my siblings and my parents. So that, and I took care of her, and that was a tough thing. And I always was the one that had to be strong. And I think what happened is my body just said, okay, now you need a little time for you, but this was active. I suspect, and this is me, this is not doctors, that was dormant for 25 years. I believe that it's the same thing, only because there were no co-infections and it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And in 4 months on oral antibiotics, I have been in what's called dormancy. People use the word remission. Remission is not correct. It just sleeps. So that's why it's so imperative, if you've had Lyme disease and if it's chronic, that you must have an anti-inflammatory diet. You must take care of yourself, protect your brain health, especially if it was neurological. But yes, you know your body. That was the original question. I did know my body, and unfortunately, it had been there long enough, just enough for me not to advocate. I just was getting over the death of my mom and still trying to write my novels and struggling. And I was doing it, by the way. But instead of writing 5,000 words a day, I was writing like 300 and being grateful.
Gratitude. That was something that we're talking about, throughout the day today too, and really having a daily gratitude practice. And it's really funny. The other day I interviewed and spoke with L.A. Dawson, and I said, "Oh, do you write in a gratitude journal every day?" And she's like, "Well, I write like all day." And I was just like, "Yeah, I guess so. Like writing in a journal for you, writing." But there's so many ways to just be in that grateful practice. I know for me, my gratitude journal is something that's very important to me. It's right here, as a matter of fact. So for everybody that's watching, grab yourself a special book, and each day it's a practice that I do, but every single day I'm writing
Beautiful.
what I'm grateful for. And it could be 3 things, it could be 5 things, it could be 10 things, because it's so true that when you anytime that you're feeling down, you serve high. And to serve yourself high is to just get yourself into a state of gratitude. So I know that practice is so important for so many people that we talk to. So what is some words of advice, we have a few minutes still, that you can say to people as well? Like when you get to that state where, you're hit with an obstacle, like how do you rise out of that at that particular moment? What can we do?
So I have to tell you, at one point my body was in such pain, and I had to walk up the stairs, and I had to get my dogs, and then I had to walk them back downstairs. And as I was walking downstairs, both my knees gave out. My neck went to the side. I mean, it was like I was about to fall, but I didn't fall. And I said, I don't know what to do with this body anymore. And I said, oh, I just raised my hand up and I said, God, thank you for this healthy body that you gave me, because it will repair and it will get better. But that took years. I have to tell you, that took years of thinking even of that idea, doing it. It doesn't take practice to do it. Just do it in your worst moment. And about 2 to 3 weeks later, all of a sudden you'll say, oh, I feel much better. And there was all this simplistic stuff that I do, like reading books about changing habits and things like that. And I always believed all of this was kind of baloney, even though I practiced it my whole life. But when push came to shove and I really had to do it because I had a body that was betraying me, it works. That's just the first thing, is to do what's contraindicated. It seems crazy, but it works.
And don't you find that that's now happening more and more and more as we're learning more
Yes.
about it? I was telling her that, I also study Joe Dispenza, and how to, if you're interested in brain mapping, and it's really a science on how you can rewire your brain with certain triggers to get your mind into a healthy state. And one thing that we talk about is that we spend a lot of time in our hygiene, washing our bodies, taking showers or baths, brushing our teeth, washing our clothes, but we do so little to cleanse our mind. And that's a vital, important organ that's inside our body. And just
Absolutely.
because we can't see it, we still have to nurture it, and we have to cleanse it and build that muscle strong. And for people like you, L.A. Dawson, who obviously have really been working and focusing on building that muscle, it's proven to be effective because
Absolutely.
You're today.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I have some things that go wrong, like words don't come, or I lose my thought or whatever. But, you know, I'm 64 years old too. I can push some of that off, but I don't really think of that anymore. This is who I am. And this is what happened. And it just is at this point. But I do protect my brain with vitamins. I do that. I read a lot of Dr. Almond's books early on. My son had a brain injury from getting hit in the head with a baseball. So I read a lot of his things and you know, talking about your thought process with your brain. And it works. And, you know, you can change, you just can change it. The thing about the brain is it's a little slower. So when I would go to the trainer, I would say, look, my biceps aren't coming back. And she'd go, you need to put your brain into it. First trainer that ever said that. And all of a sudden my biceps started growing. You know, they're not what they used to be, but I'm going to get them there and I'm going to get them better. See, I don't have those kind of restrictions. It's me. My competition is me. I know what kind of an athletic person I was, and that's where I'll be and even better. Why? Because I believe it and because I work it. It's simple, but it's hard.
It is, and it's hope. You know, I hope that's what everybody gets out of this today, is that hope is a very strong 4-letter word. Yes. Does anybody have any questions? We have a few minutes left with LA Dawson. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to, or anything you'd like to share with her? Let's see what we have. April,
I
you
just want to say thank you. Your story is so inspiring. It really is. You know, having and I know how important the mindset is around all of this, because having had some health issues, that I'm a very healthy person, like probably 4 years ago now, just all these things, these rashes came on. They were like all over my body and my face and my neck and in my scalp. And it just, when that's not who you are and that happens to you, it's so hard to overcome that mentally. And you know, I'd be like in a ball just crying, like, why is this my life now, you know? And then I totally worked on the mindset, worked on the nutrition, worked on all of that. And it's still, I'm working on it. It's improved so much, but that's the biggest thing, is like up here, just saying, no, I'm better than this. And what I would say to myself over and over again is, the power that made me heals me. I am healed. And I would say it over and over and over again. And I just envision myself. Yeah. I mean, it's really just, you need to find the right tools in those moments and what to use and what to do to overcome. And the nutrition, of course, and the physical activity is so important, but our minds are so powerful. We can really overcome anything if we truly believe we can, and we work on that daily. And I think the gratitude, Janet, was like the biggest thing for me too. Just being grateful for my health and what I did have, rather than focusing on what was happening to me in the moment, you know?
Perfect. And Janet, do you remember I talked about that visualization I did with the plunger? Can I share that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So I was so shattered, literally and figuratively, about what had happened to my body, that I said, I got to come up with a visualization that really works, that grounds me and also makes me in perfect health. So normally grounding, which I did this morning, is putting your bare feet on the earth, the grass, not macadam, not wood, not tile. But if it's winter and you want to do this, you could do this inside, because there, you know, there's power in your intention, what you want to do. So I stand up, and I don't need to really demonstrate it, but I stand up very tall and I put my feet about a foot apart on the grass. This is the ideal thing. And I say, thank you, Father, for making me better than the way you created me, because you have a bigger purpose for me. Now, look, I don't, that came through me, not from me. You know, I don't know where that came from that day, but I imagine a plunger, and I know where the problem spots are in my body are. So as I'm pushing this plunger through my head, spends a lot of time there, by the way. And when I get to my neck, a lot of time there too. And then my gut. And then I push it down, and I imagine that I'm pushing anything that does not serve me well. And notice that I don't use the word sickness. And I don't use the word illness around me at all. So nothing, everything that serves me is now. I'm pushing it deep into the earth. And I have to feel mentally that it's there for a period of time. First time you do it, it's going to be 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 30 seconds. And then I imagine it coming back up through the earth and raining me with perfect health like confetti, perfect success, perfect love, health and wellness for my children and the people that I love. Everything that I am calling out positively. And I've got to tell you something, that's kept me sane on days when I could hardly walk. So try it. The plunger exercise.
I think it helps you get unstuck, right? There, I mean, that's just beautiful.
And you laugh a little when you get to those parts, like in the brain, like, you know, my friends, when they say, oh, you know, this is my friend Alex. Some people call me Alex. Some people call me LA. Some people call me Lindsay. And they go, this is my friend LA or Alex. She's different. You know, I like that. I'm okay being different. And to take that plunger and